Hey everyone. We learn so much by diving into the recovery journeys of people who've overcome conditions like ME/CFS and Long COVID. But today, I'm talking to someone who didn't just cure her CFS completely. She was so profoundly changed by that experience that she swapped the hustle and bustle of the busy UK life for the serenity of an off-grid organic farm in Portugal. Now, that's what I call a life upgrade. If you're new here, I'm Raelan Agle, and I'm back with another inspiring interview. Each week, I share stories and resources from people around the globe who bounced back from ME/CFS and Long COVID, helping our community stay hopeful and make better decisions for our health. Joining us today is trauma-informed therapist, coach, and author Faith Canter, over in Portugal. In our previous interview, I was blown away by her unique take on guiding so many people not only to full health, but to a balanced, fulfilled life. Her holistic approach emphasizes seeing illness as a chance to transform struggles into a sustainable dream life, a perspective that really resonates with our community. So let's dive in. Faith, so incredible to have you back. Thank you for being here today.
It's totally my pleasure. I love being here.
Well, I know some people might have missed your first interview where we really did a deep dive into your own recovery journey, and I'll make sure that's linked at the end and in the description for people to check out. And today we're going to do a deep dive on some really specific stuff about healing, but I think it would be great if you could give people a quick summary, if such a thing is possible, of your own journey that brought you to this point where you are now with your health.
I will do my best. As you say, it's a bit challenging to condense 6.5 years down. But yeah, I was ill for that amount of time with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. I was bedbound, housebound, I guess the same as many other people, a mixture of the two most of the time. I did everything, tried everything, it felt like nothing worked, nothing helped. And then after the first couple of years, I started to find things that did help a little. Slight changes in my diet, slight changes in my thinking, just, little tweaks here and there. One of them was fermented foods and drinks, which we've also talked about in an interview before. Another one was meditation, and tapping was a big thing for me. Oh, what else? Basically, eliminating a lot of toxins from not just my food, but from my skincare products and home cleaning products and things like that. And yeah, slowly I started to recover some of my health, and I got to about 80% after another couple of years, but I kind of got stuck there and I didn't really understand why I was stuck there. And that was frustrating in itself, and, led in itself to quite a few crashes and things. But I realized that I wasn't really focusing on my nervous system, or wasn't really focusing as much as I could on my thoughts. And I didn't really understand the nervous system back then. I didn't really understand, how much of a game changer it was, I guess. When I did start to make these changes, kind of unknowingly at the time, a lot of it, then my health started to get to 100%. Yeah. And then one day I was recovered.
And you are, and still to this day, what does life look like for you now?
It's now been, I'm not exactly sure, but I think about 11 years. Since then, I have moved from the UK to central Portugal, where I live off-grid with a lot of animals, chickens and geese and dogs and cats and cows coming and things. I am high energy pretty much all the time. I do a lot of physical things every day. I have never looked back. I think a lot of people worry about it coming back, but I think once your mind, your nervous system and your body are all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet, that's not a worry at all.
Yeah, so 11 years. Back then, really virtually nobody was talking about the nervous system. now, I mean, you and I were saying just before we hit record, like, I'm starting to see it on just mainstream TV shows, and it's it's still a newer thing for people to understand, but it is far more talked about. But still a lot of confusion around what is exactly is happening there. So, from your experience, all of your research, all the work you've done since then with people, with clients, what is happening there? Like the nervous system, is it dysregulated? And if so, how did it get to that state in the first place?
I think most human beings have got a dysregulated nervous system to one degree or another. It's just it kind of runs the show when we're maybe the achiever type, the perfectionist, the people pleaser. They say that people with chronic fatigue syndrome and similar illnesses are one or two of them, but I actually think most people are all of them. And that really, it drives us and really upsets the nervous system. But the nervous system gets out of whack, when we're little, when we're babies even. If our primary caregivers' nervous systems a little disjointed, then we learn that that's a normal way to be. We learn that that in a way feels safe for us as well, because it's normal. So we kind of learn how to regulate or dysregulate from our caregivers really, really young. And then obviously that gets added to as we get older and have relationships and go to school and things like that, and potentially can get more and more dysregulated.
Yeah, and I think, whether your belief or your way of understanding the world comes from looking at evolution or nature or God, I think we all agree that these bodies that we are in were not designed to thrive in, massive cities, densely populated areas, having 6 screens in front of us at all time, knowing about every war that's happening in the world every morning before you even have your coffee. So there's a lot going on. So you can see how people and their bodies are in a state where they are struggling a bit. I know a nervous system is, takes information from our brain, from our amygdala, which is our threat assessment. And imagine trying to do a threat assessment on traffic jams and email and Reddit and, all of these things. So I definitely can see how it makes sense. It would be really hard to imagine a world in which our bodies were functioning right now really well, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah, we are part of nature, and we forget that. We forget we're part of nature. We forget we are nature, and we do need to connect with nature to help ourselves regulate. And like you say, when we're in boxes with screens and all of that kind of thing, it's not natural for us, and we struggle with that. And the more time we do that, the more we struggle. Our bodies are designed to deal with stress. They're designed to be chased by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever it is, but they're not designed for this constant low level over-analyzing, overthinking, overwhelm that we get when we're kind of living in modern society, really.
Yeah, and we talk about anxiety. There's essentially an anxiety epidemic happening, and anxiety is just some low level or high level of fear that you've got going on all of the time. So yeah, I can see how it can cause a lot of issues. And when we look at all of this, how does this connect to our health though? So how does working with our nervous system help us to overcome conditions like ME/CFS or long COVID, or people who have had adverse vaccine reactions or POTS and all these different things? Where is the tie-in, from your experience and your understanding there?
I really believe, and it's probably quite a big claim, that the nervous system affects every single health condition there is on the planet. It may not cure every single health condition there is on the planet, but I think it really has a huge impact on each individual's health. And I think that's because when the nervous system is in this constant state of dysregulation and protection, it's constantly trying to protect us and do its job that it's designed for, it can't heal. It's almost impossible to heal when it's in that state. So even if we do little things throughout the day, just tiny things that help us just to feel a little bit more regulated or to feel a little bit more soothed in some way or safe, then that starts to build up. We give the body kind of a little bit of a break here and there. And we can start, the nervous system starts to believe that it doesn't need to be in this state of protection all the time.
And what does that look like on a day-to-day or a week-by-week basis as starting to regulate or soothe or whatever words we want to use for the nervous system? How do people actually do that?
Well, it's different for everyone, of course. But that's a good thing. Like we can, and I do teach kind of particular techniques, you can wiggle different parts of the ear and do different things with your hands and things like that. But it's really what helps the individual, because everybody's been through different things. So ear wiggling might actually be quite traumatic to somebody, but okay to the rest of us. So it's really asking yourself and maybe writing a list of what soothes me, what makes me feel safe, what soothes me. And that could be, and probably is for a good proportion of people, being out in nature, getting our feet in contact with the ground. For me, what I've realised in the last year is being able to drink a cup of tea when it's hot, when it's still actually hot, is very soothing for me. It's, for other people, it could be, some tapping, emotional freedom technique, or meditation, or prayer, or just having a bath, or just being more present in the body. And that is, I guess that's the main one, is to allow time to be more present in our body and to listen to what our body needs. And that can be quite challenging for people that have been ill for a long time, because we don't want to listen to our body anymore because it's been causing us a lot of pain and discomfort. So that part just there may take quite a bit of time to do for some people. And, it's these sorts of things are not to be rushed. Some people might feel safe and soothed in their body very quickly. Other people, it might take weeks or more to feel like that. So it's really going at your own speed and really asking, like I say, what makes me feel safe or soothed. But a really basic thing we can start with is actually going to the toilet when we need to, eating and drinking when we need to, and sleeping when we need to, which is something we've been taught from such a young age that we have to do in break times or after we finish the job, or, that kind of thing. And those few things allow the nervous system to start to feel safe, to start to feel heard, and for us to actually start to connect back with our body again. And instead of putting off going to the toilet until we've finished the email or finished the dishes or whatever it is we actually stop and go when our body says it needs to. And that, I guess, is where I would always begin, is to do those simple things and then move on from there of what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel soothed. And yeah, it's very individual.
It's really, really great what you're saying. I'm just laughing inside. I feel like it's like Idiot's Guide to Being Human. And I say that in a way that we need it, because I don't think there's any other species on the planet that's more confused about how to take care of themselves than humans. Us with these giant brains, we're like, well, how about you sleep when you're tired and you eat when you're hungry and, you drink when you're thirsty? Yeah. I'm just picturing some birds sitting around a body of water going, I think we should have half a liter of water a day. Like, no, you should have a quarter, like just very confused about how much. Like, no, they just drink when they're thirsty. We've gotten so out of touch with just the natural world that it's an information overload, people telling you all these different things. We start to doubt just those most basic biological drives that we have. So that's brilliant. I love this so much. You also, just when I think I've heard it all, and I don't know, I know I've never heard it all, because in every interview there's something new. But you mentioned ear wiggling. Is this something that you could walk us through right now? I have never heard of that for nervous system regulation.
Okay.
What is that?
It's
And
super
can we do it right
lovely.
now? Is it complicated?
Yeah, we can do it right now. Hopefully, I'll be able to show you. You'll be able to see. So there are certain
Okay.
points. There are certain points in and around the ear which help the vagus nerve, and it's you just do it very, very lightly. So we're barely touching the skin, and we're just making a really small movement. So let's see. Can I do it without taking my earbud out? So you've got this point in here, kind of here, or you've
Mhm.
got the point right in the ear canal. So I am going to just take this out a second because I'm going to knock it out otherwise. So if we do the one on the ear canal, you can just put your finger lightly over where the ear canal is. So you're kind of covering it. And then you move round in circles very, very lightly. Whichever direction you want to go, you can do both ears at the same time if you want to, or you can just do one. But you're being really gentle. You're just moving the skin. And then there is usually a yawn, a tear, a sigh of some description, a shudder. There's some sort of release almost. If you don't get one, it's also totally okay. But there are, like I said, a few of these points in and around the ear. And I am in a habit now of just doing one of them every night when I go to bed. Because I would rather, I mean, I sleep pretty well anyway, but I would rather just spend 20 seconds, if that, doing that and then go straight to sleep than lay there for half an hour and then decide to do it. So I just think it's a lovely way to finish the day. I also recommend people do these sorts of things before they eat meals so that you're more regulated when you're eating your food, so you uptake more of the nutrients, that kind of thing. So it's just really, really simple things. And I think that's really important with the nervous system, is to keep it simple. There are so many complicated things out there that we can do. And I know there are so many gadgets you can buy to wear around your neck or on your ear and stuff like that. But actually, as we said earlier, we're nature, and it shouldn't be that complicated for us to look after ourselves. I loved what you said earlier about that. We are a bit crazy. We find we have to make it also complicated. But yeah, that's just one of the many techniques that you can do that is soothing, simple, and it doesn't matter how tired you are or anything like that. It's a pretty easy one to do.
So you mentioned food. Does what we eat impact our nervous system?
Yes, unfortunately it does. But it's pretty much the same way of thinking to support the adrenals, to support our health in general. We don't want to be having too much food that is spiking the blood sugars, because that's also upsetting everything else, including the nervous system. So if you're trying to be more or feel more regulated, and you're having coffee and lots of chocolate and lots of candies and stuff like that, you're going to find it really, really difficult to regulate, because your blood sugar's going up and then it's crashing down, and it's going up and it's crashing down, and that's not a place where we can feel so safe and so soothed then. So yeah, it's kind of like I say, it's the same things that we do for pretty much every other health condition. It's just, if you're really wanting to feel more regulated, then I would be kind of reducing or cutting out any foods that spike the blood sugars.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of people now talking about the role of trauma, whether it's from something recent or from our childhood. So how does that play into all of this?
Yeah, well, obviously we've all been through traumatic events in our lives, and some people deal with it in one way and other people deal with the same trauma in a completely different way. And I think we're almost becoming a little bit obsessed about that we have to release trauma, that we'll get well when we've released our trauma. But in that kind of pushy energy, it's often difficult to release trauma, and it's really up to the body when it feels safe enough to release its trauma, and not us and our big brains again. So what I always think is that if we making a conscious effort to regulate ourselves as often as we can, that in turn allows our nervous system to start to feel safe, to start to come out of feeling that it needs to be protecting us all the time. And then we can actually, without even trying many times, we release our trauma anyway, because the body starts to let go and to release, and not to need to or feel like it needs to hold on and protect us. So most of the time we don't actually need to do big trauma release therapies and things like that. We can just let go of a lot of trauma just from regulating our nervous system.
Yeah, I found even when I got a consistent meditation practice without actively trying to release anything, I could just feel things coming up and going just in that space, just having a dedicated space every day to just calm and get quiet. So I'm sure that could look like a lot of things for a lot of different people. And I absolutely love that you just said everybody's been through trauma, because of course everybody has. And we sometimes think of trauma as, war or very violent attacks, but there are all different sorts of trauma out there. And people saying, well, does this apply to me? I've never had any trauma, and everyone's been through things. So I think that's just a really important thing to acknowledge. And also that you don't have to have this dedicated trauma release practice for you to feel better and get well. Because I think there's a lot of people that are understandably worried, because I think I've been through all these things. How am I ever going to get better? And I don't know how I'm going to be fully at peace with all that I've been through. So I would say you don't need to be a Buddha on a mountaintop meditating 24 hours a day to feel well. And we are resilient beings. It's just a process of giving space for all of this and being aware of it and being present, and giving all this stuff space to release.
Yeah. I think the focus should always be, how do I feel safe and soothed? And then let the body do whatever it wants to do, whenever it wants to do it after that. Not try and force ourselves into these places where we're like, I'm going to fix myself and I'm going to release all my trauma on this workshop. Because most of the time, actually, that won't happen, because we don't feel safe and soothed in workshop kind of surroundings and stuff like that.
And I definitely wouldn't recommend sitting down and trying in a 24-hour period to try and process every traumatic thing that's ever happened to you, because that's probably going to be a trauma in itself. It's your body wants to do it in its own time, and that's an unnatural way to just any of us overachiever go at it types. They're like, okay, let's do this.
Yes.
By Monday, I'm just sorted.
Yes, been there, done that.
Okay, first of all, tell us, what does that look like? So what kind of support and resources do you have available for people? And then what does that look like? Because it's so great that there's support out there from so many people like yourself. People don't have to go through this alone anymore. So, when people come in and work with you, what sorts of things do you do to help them work past these conditions?
It's very individual, like I probably keep saying, because we've all got our own different past and different things that have upset us. I offer what I feel is a full range of things that people can use depending on how much time and energy and funds they have as well. So, there are hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel that I'm always offering little tidbits through. And then I have ebooks. I have an ebook on the nervous system. I've got one coming out on just being free from fatigue soon as well. I have books like paperback and hardback books that you can buy from most online sellers. And then I have some kind of short courses and things. I've recently done a nervous system course, a 6-week live nervous system course, which any day now, probably by the time this interview comes out, that will be on my website for people to purchase the recordings of, so they can work through that at their own pace. And that covers things like the ear wiggling and loads of other stuff as well. And then obviously I offer the coaching as well. I have group coaching. I have a 30-day free CFS program as well. And I also do one-to-one coaching. So the one-to-one coaching, like I say, is very individual. It depends what's bothering that person the most at that time. I don't have a set program that we have to work by and things like that. It's really, working on what's bothering that person the most at that time, and working together in 30-minute sessions or 1 hour sessions, and using things like tapping, all sorts of weird and wonderful but very simple nervous system regulating techniques, teaching them, or not teaching them, guiding them how to listen to their own body again, and how to be connected to their own body, and how to feel connected to their community and nature and being human again. Really guiding us back to these simple things that we used to do very naturally and have sort of lost our way. Yeah, it's kind of that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
That's incredible. So many different options and so many different things and lots of free resources, which is incredible because so many people, understandably, are struggling with finances and this all can get very expensive. Faith, what I would have given to have had you when I look back on my journey, it would have just been, I just can't even imagine. And you have so much insight and there's such a kindness about you and compassion. And my nervous system feels soothed just talking to you. I'm so grateful that you have, come to where you are now and that you're helping so many people. And I think this is such a gift and that you're out there for people. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Thank you. Thank
I
you.
can only imagine the ripple effect you're having in the world right now. It's a really incredible thing. And of course, for people watching and listening, this will all be linked in the description. So please just take a look, expand that, take a moment, see what's there, connect with Faith, reach out to her. Just, you don't need to be going through whatever you're going through alone. There is support available at free or very reasonable, costs, and anything that can help people on their journey. I think it's a really worthwhile investment. So thank you so much. I'm going to link here too for people who missed Faith's first interview. She really does a good, interesting deep dive on how she worked through her own journey. We went through it really fast at the beginning, but there's a lot of great insights in there. And I think we even talked about squirrels in that one, which I love because squirrels are this amazing reoccurring theme in my interviews. The power of squirrels. So people watching, if you haven't seen that, definitely check that out. Thank you, Faith, for being here. So insightful as always. Just really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for having me here. I really feel passionately about helping people, and I know you do as well. When you've been through it yourself, you just don't really want anyone else to suffer in the same way.
Absolutely. Wonderful. And thank you to everyone who is watching, listening, looking forward to your comments. And I hope to see you in Faith's other interview, learning more about her own recovery journey.